French President Emmanuel Macron said yesterday there are, quote, very clear clues pointing to war crimes in Bucha.
This guy, very clear clues.
He's on it.
So, Inspector Clouseau, he's on the case here.
Britain and Germany have echoed those sentiments. Meanwhile, support is building within the European Union for cutting ties with Russian energy. The French government announced yesterday it would support an embargo on Russian oil and coal. French President Macron also hinted yesterday other EU countries, including Germany, may do so as well. This would mark a major shift for the German economy, which is heavily reliant on Russian energy. Economists say such a move by Germany could trigger a major recession there. And Katty Kay, I'll go to you with that. There will be a cost at this point, and some may argue, especially these world leaders at this point, that the cost is worth it.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like you've actually got splits within the German coalition government. You've got the defense minister suggesting that it's time to have some kind of embargo on Russian energy, and the finance minister saying, well, hold on a second, we can't actually do that because it would crash the German economy. So we're hearing those divisions play out quite publicly in Germany in response to what has been seen in Bucha, but a realization that they have to try to do something because German public opinion wants them to do something. When Zelensky criticizes directly members of the German government for being, by name, for being too close to President Putin, he's doing it deliberately. He's doing it, maybe he's going to irritate the German government. That doesn't really matter to him that much. He's doing it to stoke German public opinion, and it seems to be working. So there's now pressure in Germany on the government to try and do something. What it looks like they might do is try to separate out the different components of Russian energy. So oil, divide up oil, gas and coal, and do something perhaps about oil and coal on which they're a bit less dependent, but keep those gas flows going. But a lot of money, a lot of European money going to Russia to fund the Russian war effort in Ukraine, and that's becoming intolerable as we watch the pictures coming out of Bucha, and it's certainly enabling President Putin to carry out these atrocities.
Katty, talk about the politics of this in France. Obviously, election coming up next week. Macron was supposed to win easily. The polls have tightened considerably there in the first round of voting. What are the politics on the ground in France for an embargo?
I mean, the polls have tightened in France, you're right, just in the last week or two, with Marine Le Pen doing better than she had been doing. But Macron has still benefited politically. I mean, God, to the extent that we can say anyone, Joe, right, has benefited at all out of this atrocity. It sounds crass to say that, but in pure political terms, Macron's standing has risen during the course of this war in terms of his re-election. There's again interest in France in doing something, but I speak to people in France all the time. Their heating bills are crippling. If gas were priced as oil is priced, French and German people to heat their houses are paying the equivalent of $500 a barrel. That's a huge amount to be paying to heat your price. And the European argument in France, as it is in Germany, is that these sanctions, as this war drags on, the sanctions have to be sustainable. What everyone's worried about in Europe, that I speak to European diplomats and leaders about, is they're worried about the Western coalition splitting. If this is going to last into a second winter and European homes need to be heated for a second winter, and on top of that you're going to get a rise in food prices because wheat is not being planted in Ukraine at the moment by farmers, they're too busy fighting, then you could start to see splits. Will Europeans stick with this war effort? There has to be a realization this could go on for a long time, and you need this coalition to hold together for a long time.
It's a monumental task, too, to switch off fossil fuels. Not going to happen overnight. Let's go to Ukraine, where we find NBC News correspondent Gabe Gutierrez. He's in central part of the country. Gabe, good morning. So as Ambassador McFaul was saying a moment ago, the great fear, and I know you're hearing this on the ground as well, is that Bucha has opened the world's eyes to what may be behind the attacks in many other cities, that this may just be the beginning.
Yeah, that's right. That's right, Willie. Many Ukrainians feel that it is just the tip of the iceberg, and we're hearing that from President Zelensky as well, who's saying that other towns surrounding Kyiv may have higher death tolls than Bucha as authorities go in and clear the areas, clear the landmines. We're expecting to hear of even more atrocities. And Willie, this is something that should be pointed out. Mariupol, for example, the besieged southern port city, is 10 times the size of Bucha. Roughly the size of Minneapolis Angeles in the U.S., and that city has been under siege for weeks with more than 90% of the buildings damaged or destroyed, Ukrainians say. Now, we're here in Vinnytsia. This is in central Ukraine. We were here also last week talking to people here, and as well as today. There's just an incredible outrage over the scenes coming from Bucha, but not surprised. I also want to tell you, Willie, just a short time ago on Ukrainian TV, President Zelensky was asked about the possibility of a face-to-face meeting with Vladimir Putin. You'll remember a few days ago, over the weekend, there was that idea floated by the Ukrainian lead negotiator that could be a possibility. Then the following day, the chief negotiator for Russia seemed to throw some cold water on it. In his latest comments, President Zelensky says it's very possible that that meeting does not ever happen, because what's on his mind specifically is even if Russia and Ukraine were to come to what he called some sort of powerful agreement, there's a very real possibility that the Russians can come back and say 2 years. And so there's a huge level of mistrust here, obviously, Willie, especially after the atrocities we've been seeing in Bucha. And again, over the next coming days here in Ukraine, so many of the Ukrainians here are expecting more video, more pictures to emerge from some of those towns around Kyiv that are currently being cleared by those authorities, Willie.
And how could there possibly be any trust in those negotiations at this point? NBC's Gabe Gutierrez, thank you very much. Meanwhile,
hey, thanks so much for watching our YouTube channel. You can follow up on today's top stories and breaking news, or catch up on your favorite MSNBC shows all in one place. Download the NBC News app today.